Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Because Football Podcast. This is your host, Andrew. Today, a special guest, Roshan Patel, founder of GIVE&GO Games, the soccer party card game.
Yeah, thanks so much, Andrew, for having me, and excited to get into it today.
First question, man. What's your earliest memory of the game?
Yeah, so I think I have to go back to my childhood, and I grew up in Southern California, and at the time I was playing rec league soccer and AYSO. Um, you know, I grew up kind of during the Kobe Shaq days, the Lakers, that era, and I grew up being a basketball player and playing rec league soccer. Um, you know, my earliest memory was kind of this one, I guess, weekend where this Brazilian coach kind of came up to my dad and was like, "Hey, would love to bring your son out for this all-star tryout that we're having." I think at the time we were like 10 years old. Don't know what he saw in me. Maybe it was like the fact that I could kick a ball far with my left foot, because that's all I could really do back then. Um, but I was in love with basketball. Like that's what I did. That's what I was best at. But my dad kind of not forced me, but kind of encouraged me to kind of go out to this one tournament, this one weekend in Diamond Bar. And so, I had a basketball game in the morning. We jetted over to this tournament, and I ended up scoring a goal. I was a left back, so a defender. But
Yeah,
I
it's a big
remember,
deal.
yeah, I remember scoring this goal, and I didn't know anyone on the team, but I left that kind of tournament just with this feeling inside of me. Didn't know what it was. I was 10 years old, but there was something special about the culture that this coach, his name was Edson, born and bred in Brazil, was just coaching our team just out of the pure joy of the game. He had a son on the team at the time. And there was this feeling of just, wow, I feel so included here. Our team was made up of so many different people from different backgrounds. In SoCal, there's a large Hispanic population. So um, I enjoyed that, being a kid of Indian descent, growing up in SoCal, it felt different. And, when I think about kind of the path that I've been on with soccer my whole life, like that 2 to 3 year period really formed my love of the game. And, having a Brazilian coach was super helpful because it wasn't about the big kind of strong players. It was more about technique and tactics. And that, I think, kind of formulated my outlook on the game. And, we lived and breathed the game from that early age. And that kind
Real
of
cool.
helped create that foundation for me to kind of build off of into the future.
Awesome. Yeah, man, I love hearing that. I love a lot of people share the stories of their first time, and it's like watching a game or something like that, and you get a handful from playing. But I always love when people share about like that coach or that person that was really influential. And it sounds like, your coach Edson not only meant so much to you as like a mentor, right? And just like a great personality and influence to guide you and make you feel comfortable. But then just like the overall culture and the perspective on the game that he was able to give you as well. It sounds like it was really, really formative for you. So you went from those youth years, and then you ended up playing D1 at William and Mary, right? So you came to the East Coast and played there. Tell us a little bit about your experience, at a university level, and kind of what led on after that.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, when I was about 13, my family moved from California to Virginia, and it was kind of a tough transitionary period for me. I was leaving kind of my hometown friends, but also excited to kind of live in a new place. When I kind of got into high school, I didn't really know if I was good enough to play college soccer. But, one thing that I did have was my ability to just play. And I kind of lean on the underdog story. No one really expected this scrawny Indian kid to, play at a high level, but I just kept my head down and kept working. And ultimately, that's how I developed some really great friendships. And I was fortunate enough to play on a really good club team in Virginia. And we had some success at the state and regional level. And through that, I was able to kind of get views from college coaches.
Got
And the
it.
funny story about how I ended up at William and Mary was we were playing in this international tournament. We were actually kind of playing against the youth Blackburn Rovers team. And the funny thing is, we were playing in Washington, D.C., and the William Mary coach had come out to watch one of my teammates. But for whatever reason, that teammate was late for this game. And just based on the tournament rules, he couldn't start the match. So I typically played left back, but for this particular match, I played center back. And after I played that match at center back, I got a call from William and Mary being like, "Hey, we didn't know you could play other positions. Like, let's chat." So from there, had a couple conversations, went down to visit the campus a few times, and that was kind of the biggest deciding factor for me. And looking back, it was the best decision I ever made. Some of my best friends are from university, and
100%.
still stay in
Yeah.
touch with those people, and really developed a strong soccer community during my time there, and also got a really good education. College soccer, I think, has changed so much over the last 5 years, but for me, it was an
Definitely, man.
opportunity to play soccer, do something I love, and also get a good education. We had some success. I was able to play my freshman year, and we made it to the NCAA tournament a few of
That's
those
awesome,
years.
man. That's
So that was
awesome.
great. Looking back, I can't regret anything. And, I think when I think about the opportunities soccer has given me, um, that's the one thing I think I'm most fortunate for is, hey, I didn't maybe play at the highest level. I didn't really have aspirations to play professionally. Um, but the community and the network and just the fact that I can go out and kick around with anyone at any time is something I'm really fortunate for.
You mentioned like the connection with your friends, your buddies. That's huge. I've had a few college coaches on the podcast, and the one we just put out last week was with the guy who's coached the college level, and that always comes up, like the impact on life. Becomes such a big part of it because sure, the end goal for you, for me, for 99.99999% is not like professional. So it's like, okay, what's the point to compete, to reach your full potential? But I think really the social aspect of the game is huge, and those relationships, those friendships, connections. Seems like that's exactly what's inspired you, and that's exactly the type of aspect of the game that you're getting into here with with Give and Go Games. And so tell us more about the current project and what you're working on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? One thing I will say, Andrew, is soccer for me has been kind of this love hate affair. I think when
Mm,
you grow up with the game, and I use hate lightly. I don't like that word, but I'll use it lightly here, more to kind of paint the picture. But for me, soccer was my life. All the way from 6 years old, all the way up to 21 and beyond. But once I graduated, I didn't have that outlet anymore. I was
mm,
working a corporate job, kind of bottom of the totem pole. I was working in finance, and honestly, I had a little bit of an identity crisis. I was like, "What am I doing here?"
mhm.
So, after that first job in finance, I was like, man, I love soccer. I want to figure out a way to spend time working on things I'm passionate about. So, after that first job, I actually went to Liberia. And my college roommate at the time, Liberia is in West Africa.
Mhm.
At the time, it was kind of right after the Ebola crisis. And, you know, my best friend from college, my co-captain, he super bright dude, and he was on a mission to kind of rebuild and reshape the education system in Liberia through
Wow.
sport. So he
Okay.
started a soccer academy, and I joined him out there for about 3 months just to kind of get the thing up and running. And that time out there really kind of gave me perspective on the global game, you know,
Mhm.
being on the ground in a third world country where these kids really don't have the kind of opportunity we have here in America. Really made me understand like the impact that this game could have
100%,
uh,
man.
in our own unique ways, right? So, I say that because I think life doesn't really ever look like this. I think for most people, it's a lot of this.
Mhm.
And so for me, I only recently started working kind of in the soccer world. I spent most of my career kind of working in the technology digital space. I think for me, it was about seeing and kind of pursuing opportunities that I believed in. My path has not been linear by any means. I worked at a company called Fanatics a couple years ago, and they had a wave of layoffs, just right after COVID. And kind of after that, it kind of gave me an opportunity to maybe work on some of these side projects. And through working on some of these side projects, Give and Go was born. And the first time I played Give and Go, this soccer card game, was just with a few really good friends. We were sitting on the floor of my apartment on ripped pieces of paper. And I was like, holy crap, like I don't get to play the game on the field as much anymore. But
Right.
here I am hanging out with my soccer buddies, talking about the game. And, a lot of the people I hang out with, since college are soccer fans. And for me, I saw this opportunity to kind of bring people together, spark discussion around the sport we love, and just give people something a little bit different in terms of how they associate with the game. So that's kind of a little bit about how this came to life.
Yeah, very cool. And I know, from us chatting before, like the theme of, yeah, just you go a certain path, doesn't seem to really be the way, or it doesn't sit right, maybe it doesn't connect, and we have to do things for a variety of reasons in life. But like this, the Give and Go came kind of organically out of something you just love, right? Just being with your friends, talking about the game, sharing time together, the jokes, the laughs. So I think there's so much power in that it just, you weren't like, hey, I love soccer, I'm going to make a card game about this. It's like it really just came up just from your life, right? And then you kind of recognize the potential in it. And it's cool. I think the thing to connect with is like a lot of people can think of moments like that, or when they've done things with friends, and maybe it is something that you keep up within your friend group culture. Tell us a little bit about how like that really went from the step of like, hey, just doing it with friends to, all right, this is something that I'm gonna really pursue on a bigger scale.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, starting from the beginning, I think this was just an idea. It was actually, one of my friend's ideas. Um, and we were like, hey, let's print a few of these, put them up on a website and see what we could do. And honestly, after I played, there was kind of this light bulb moment of, wow, like I know a lot about soccer. I think I know a lot about soccer, but playing this game actually taught me a lot more. It also brought me closer to my friends in terms of the storytelling angle as well. And for me, that felt different. And, I read a great book recently um, called Play Bigger. And one of the core elements it talks about was the consumer, the end consumer. And when you think about the products people buy, it's not necessarily about buying the better product. It's about buying a different product. And when I did a quick little Google search, I couldn't find too many great products focused in the soccer card game sphere. Most of them had, a lot of pieces. Maybe there were too many rules. Maybe they were quite expensive. And so for me, I was like, hey, I see potential in this product being a little bit different than what's currently out there in the sense of we're going to keep it super simple. We're going to make it more about human connection and sparking conversation. And we're going to create a product that's at an affordable price point. Like I want someone anywhere in the world to be able to play this game, because at the end of the day, the more we can talk about the game, the more we can hang out with our friends and have a laugh, I think the better off, the soccer community will be. So, when we were sitting on the floor of my apartment, back in October 2023, I kind of spent those next 2 months just trying to get like a beta product ready to start sharing with friends to get feedback. So after a few months, I'd kind of worked on the content strategy of keeping the framework of the cards and the prompts somewhat flexible, really leaning into the conversational aspect, but then finding the balance of conversational but quick thinking and witty. And after a few months, we had kind of this beta product that we printed about 50 packs of, and we started sending them out to friends all across the country. from that, we got a lot of feedback. And at that point, we were like, okay, how do we raise just a little bit of money to kind of mass produce this and get this out to just a little bit more people? So we decided to kind of do a Kickstarter campaign. For folks not familiar with Kickstarter, it's kind of like they call it crowdfunding, but you're
Right.
able to kind of create a product, put it up on the website, and then you get backers to help bring your project to life. You create a little campaign around it. So we did a Kickstarter. We raised a little bit of money. We started to get feedback. We got this in the hands of a lot of soccer people in the community. And from there, things started to kind of fall into place. I will caveat this by saying it definitely hasn't been an easy journey. I think I've learned a lot about
Sure. Yeah.
myself and what it's going to take to really get this to the next level. But at the end of the day, I think starting a business is all about kind of getting that social proof. And once we launched that Kickstarter, we had a lot of social proof that people were enjoying this, people were having fun, and people were learning. So from there, it was all about kind of how do we get this out to more people? How do we market this thing and position this in, a world kind of saturated by media? How do we stand out?
Sure.
So, I kind of at this moment do a lot of things, from branding to marketing to business development. But I think, I try to root myself in the things that are hopefully going to move the needle. And those things definitely take time. This requires a lot of patience. But I think when you think about where we were 6 months ago to where we are now, and the fact that people are finding this game on Google and, buying packs, that gives me confidence that we're
100%.
doing something right.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
think it's just a matter of time before people see the potential and kind of can see why we're doing the things we're doing now. But for us, right at the very core, it's about how do we bring people together and spark discussion around the sport we love. We think we can kind of be the category leader for soccer card games and sports games for that matter. But for right now, we know soccer. We have a great community behind us. And it's like, how do we support that community? How do we build that community? And how do we just have fun? I think I'm not at the end of the day trying to sell you a pack of cards here. I'm really just trying to sell this idea of fun. And I think based on the comments, based on the feedback, this game has created a lot of fun for people. And, that's kind of the driving force behind a lot of what we do.
Yeah, well, we're gonna see if it's fun in a few moments. Here, we're gonna move on. We're gonna play a little bit. I know we've talked about it a lot. I've
Yeah.
seen like the website and your guys' social media and stuff. So we're gonna play in a little bit. But I'm curious, like, and again, you've had a kind of a diverse background of business experience. Working with various brands and in marketing and things in media, and like the zeitgeist of the time, the trend of the time is digital. It's apps. It's in our phones, it's in our devices. What kind of made you go the other way, the analog route, like the physical card deck? I mean, what makes you kind of go that way when seemingly everything else is going in a more, digital, virtual direction?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. And it's ironic because I've worked most of my life in technology. I've known technology will kind of be the future that we live in, but I've never viewed technology as the thing. How I view technology, and how I like to put it is technology, in my opinion, should be an enabler. It should help you grow, um, and it has that potential. But for me, technology should not be the main product. And I know, there are a lot of companies that are tech companies that are solely focused on building digital experiences. Um, but for me, this game kind of came to fruition, just after kind of the COVID era. And at least for me, COVID was kind of interesting. We weren't hanging out with people, we were isolated. And I think coming out of that period of time, there was just a need for more human connection. And so for us, it was more about doubling down on the thing that really made us feel good. And I've worked in technology, right? From building digital experiences to apps to games. And while I think there's so much potential there, there's also so much potential in other aspects of business and games. And so, I was very fortunate to work at Topps, a trading card company that got acquired by Fanatics while I was there. But I got to learn a lot about games. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about kind of game theory and kind of creating this loop. And for me, it was like, how do we combine elements of trading cards and games and sports to build something super simple and super focused on human connection? And, when I think digital, I think you do lose an element of physical connection and human
Mhm.
connection. And I think social media companies are getting smart with how they increase engagement and, get you to kind of do things that you maybe weren't think of. But at the end of the day, the magic of this game for us was sitting in a circle on a floor of our apartment and just having good old conversation. And I think with our generation, with the younger generation, with the older generation, nothing can really replace just talking to your friends, and talking about soccer. And so for us, it was like, hey, maybe in the future, Give and Go will have a digital element. I'm not, against that. But for
Mhm.
right now, it was all about bringing people together and sharing our love for the game in person, because that's kind of, I think, what makes us most happy. So, I think digital is great, but with Give and Go, digital will help and enable us to do things and grow and scale in the future. And we're already starting to kind of test things out with that. But I think for us, it's just staying focused on what we know and really doubling down on this element of bringing people together. And we think if we can do that, all the other kind of things will fall into place.
Yeah, very cool, man. I like just how you are kind of going against that trend, but it's not just an edgy thing, right? It's not an attempt just to be edgy. Like it really is rooted. I think we would all agree is the technology making this conversation available and possible is great. Love that. It would also be great to be sitting together, in Boston on a nice, balmy day somewhere and being able to connect in person, right? We all understand kind of those things, and I think the timing of when the game kind of came about and the context with the pandemic and how we had seen a lot of our behaviors change is really fascinating too. And again, I think speaks to, like I said before, how it organically came out of you doing something you love to do. It organically came out of that very context specific time, and I think kind of focused a lot of things about like what is important for us, which even just a few years after seems like we're going really fast again.
Yeah.
But that's for another conversation. But yeah, man, awesome. So I think the other question I've got here is like, we're talking a lot about the game, but we want to see a little bit more into it. But if I'm just somebody listening, like, how do I know that this might be for me? Maybe I'm a little bit unsure of my soccer knowledge. Maybe I feel like I have a certain knowledge in some places, but it might get a little too niche for me. Like, what would you say? Who's a good fit for for the game in its current iteration? Because I know you guys have
Yeah.
plans to obviously be able to expand and connect with different segments, of soccer fan base.
Yeah, great question, Andrew. So I'll start like very holistically because what we're trying to do here is not just build, one game for one audience. I think with any business or any idea, it's smart to approach it by really staying targeted on who your audience is. And I'll get into that in a second. But really, what we're trying to do is kind of build this ecosystem of soccer card game. And what I mean by that is depending on your level of soccer knowledge, depending on your level of interest, or maybe your age, we will create personalized packs that kind of touch every element of your soccer journey. Maybe you're the soccer mom or soccer dad who doesn't know much about the sport, but your son or daughter plays, and you just want a way to interact with them off the field and learn more about the game. So, you know, while I consider this kind of the base party pack that is very hyper focused on, I would call the soccer hooligan, someone that definitely knows a little bit about the sport, maybe associates with the game by playing or watching every week.
Right.
Our goal is to kind of expand that universe and really bring together all levels of soccer fandom, hyper focused on our current target audience, but it slowly starts to expand out to bring together all levels of soccer fandom at different age groups. One thing that we did try to do with this game was we did try to find that balance, because one thing that we've noticed is we're not always hanging out in a group of just soccer people. So we've tried to include cards and prompts that don't maybe necessarily require soccer knowledge, but just
Okay.
require general storytelling and basic sports knowledge. And the great part is, look, we haven't created complex rules. There's no winners, there's no losers, there's no points. As with a lot of games, people kind of tend to create their own house rules.
For
So
sure.
we
They're the
encourage
most fun,
people.
man.
Yeah,
The
that's
really friends, making your friend who hates to do one thing do that thing, right? That's better
exactly.
than anything you could imagine.
Yeah. So, I'll use one card as an example where it's like, hey, go around the group and name teams with red jerseys. You might have a mix of soccer people and non-soccer people, but you know, there's always an opportunity to learn. And if someone doesn't know a soccer team, it's like, hey, screw it. Throw in an American football team or throw in a basketball team. Throw in any team that you know.
It's a team,
Um,
right? The fine
yeah,
print.
we're
Yeah,
not specific. It's a soccer card game, but we don't necessarily call out anything soccer related. So there are a handful of cards in there. Derby Days, for example, is another one. It's like rock, paper, scissors with the person next to you. So there are elements that, are action based, discussion based, storytelling based.
cool.
And you don't necessarily need to be a soccer expert to play. And that's something really important to us. I think we have a lot of companies that are hyper focused on the soccer hooligan. And we have not that many companies that are focused on bridging the gap between the casual fan and that soccer hooligan. We view Give and Go as a connector in a lot of ways of, hey, the World Cup's coming up. There are going to be millions of people who want to associate and be a part of that excitement. But how are we educating them? How are we inspiring them? How are we kind of bringing them into this soccer world that we all know, but not a lot of other people know? So, we have kind of this spectrum of different products that will kind of bring you along the journey and hopefully, excite you every step of the way. And along the way, you'll also learn a thing or two as well.
I know, like looking at the website, you kind of pose it as like a hydration game,
Mhm.
right? For those who want to, it could be the pub game, right? The drink game. But I think based on what you've said, it's like you guys are just kind of creating this foundation, and then whatever social setting, whatever situation happens, like it's just really customizable to your friend group, right? It's very contextual to your group. I know you said you've had a lot of like youth teams try it, or even coaches within sessions with their team. Like a lot of, there seems like a lot of applications. So I think that's part of the cool thing of it is like as long as there's some interest in the game and you want to get your friends together, it's an accessible and there's not it's not overly rule based, which really just allows like each group to kind of do it. So speaking of, two guys on a podcast, maybe that could be a setting for Give and Go. So I'm excited to get into this. We're not going to give everything away, right? We're going to give just enough of a teaser for everybody to be interested, but let's get into the game here.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm excited here. And yeah, as I open this up, right, like you mentioned, Andrew, very simple. Literally open the pack, shuffle the cards, and draw a card. We've kept it very simple in the sense of no points, no winners, no losers. At times it's like this is kind of maybe a new form of game, like a more discussion based game.
Okay.
And I know when people think games, they think winner, loser, points, goals. Maybe at some point in the future, we'll have an iteration that incorporates that stuff. But for now, we wanted the simplest thing that people could just pick up. And, our motto is wherever you go, give and go. So take it wherever you go. At the end of the day, it's just a pack of cards that fits in your pocket. And, you can whip it out wherever, on the bus, at the pub, at the pitch, wherever you fancy. So I'll
Cool.
choose one card here, and
Nice.
we'll just do it live. Yeah.
Let's do it live.
Okay. This card is name 3 players for the person across from you. Play one, sell one, bench one.
All right. So
I'll name 3 players.
Okay, you got to name the 3.
Okay.
And it's, what was it? It was sell one,
Play one, bench one.
sell one, play one, bench one. All right, hit me.
I'll go with 3 big names that most people are probably familiar with, but I'll go with 3 attackers. I'll go with Erling Haaland, Mo Salah, and Kylian Mbappe.
Okay.
Play one, sell one, bench one.
All right. I'm selling Haaland.
Okay.
Playing Salah, and I'm going to bench Mbappe.
Yeah. I would probably choose the same 3. So,
awesome.
And just to give you guys a sense of the framework, right? Like every time you play, most likely people are going to name 3 different players. So that was something we wanted to focus on, was we don't want you to just play this once and then it becomes stale. We've kind of left the prompts open-ended, where it kind of changes every time you get a chance to play.
Absolutely. Cool. Yeah, because I'm already thinking, like, all right, if I'm playing with my friend, my buddy Yako from Holland, this is what I might say, because we have this like inside joke or shared experience. If I'm with my college buddies from the US, this is what I'm going to say. If it's with my wife, it's going to be a different one. So yeah, awesome. All right, is it my turn?
All right, this one's for you, and I'm going to put up the card on the screen for you to read it if you can.
Yeah. What's your pregame ritual? Lamest one drinks.
I guess we can both go for this one, but you can also just give us your pregame ritual.
Gotcha. My pregame ritual, I even do it now in men's league. It's even more important because I don't play that often and I'm older and slower and tighter, is I do, if you were just like observing, you would probably be really maybe entertained, definitely confused by my pregame like stretching calisthenics routine. I used to always get a hard time from my buddies. I guess you like ones that nobody else does, I guess. I don't know, but that's important to me. Probably the stretching part.
Hey, there's no right or wrong answers here. My pregame ritual, and I'll drink to this one. I'll just kick off with the drink.
Oh man, come on, you gotta have some
of my tea, but
yourself.
Mine was just so lame, man. It was just throw in my headphones, and then the only real thing I did was tie my left boot before my right. And so I don't know. I'm not a superstitious guy, but I think subconsciously I always tied my left. I'm a left footer, so I would tie my left boot first and then right foot, and then get on out there.
Generally be listening to, on average, if I had to go back to a time, sure it changed, but like on average of your matches you played through high school, college, what would probably be like the default most played artist or song?
Man,
that's important.
People might find this weird, but I'm like a big U2 fan. I'm like not really a headbanger type guy, but yeah, I'm throwing a lot of U2, and I think more than anything, it was more about kind of calming myself before the game rather than like getting super amped up. And then once that whistle blew, I was kind of all over the place, but yeah, did my best to kind of stay.
Yeah, it's not lame to have a calm mind. I like listening to U2, but I wouldn't probably listen to them to get ready for a game. So yeah, I'm
fair enough.
You gotta say it. You already had the coffee, so we're not gonna make you double down on that.
Yeah. Want to do maybe one or two more?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Cool. So this one's like a discussion one, but who is most likely to get sent off in a game?
I think you answered that. I was more of a winger attacking player.
Okay.
I think I got, I don't know, I think less than 5 yellow, probably definitely less than 10 yellow cards in my whole football career. Half of them were probably for like dissent too. Yeah. So more of what I said rather than what I did. So I think for you as our defender, you kind of copped to it already. I think you're the bruiser, right? You're the one coming in with those crunching tackles.
Yeah, you're the one kind of getting tackled. I'm the one
exactly. Yep.
In the tackle.
Yeah, I'm the one with the bruises. You're the one with the card.
Yeah, I got super emotional on the soccer field, and it means so much. And I have respect for the players and coaches that can keep their cool. Happens to the best of us. I think you're probably right. I'm probably more likely to get sent off, and I just think back to this one memory in college. Like we were playing spring ball. So like, it wasn't even the
No
season.
official, no official
It
result.
was like a friendly scrimmage against another university in Virginia, and for whatever reason, like this guy playing right mid, I was playing right back. We kind of played in the same ODP pool, and I never really liked the kid. And at the time, back in high school, no one really knew me. All these other kids were getting looks from colleges, and then here I was on the same pitch as this guy defending him. And I just remember it was a throw-in. He was in front of me, I was behind him, and he just like elbows me to the gut. And I'm just like, what the hell, dude? Like spring game, it all happened so fast. And then I just kind of pushed his face
Brush
with
your head.
my hand.
Okay.
And like the ref thought I was like choking him. And like I see it one way, everyone else saw it the other way. But I just remember my coach being so pissed. Like, dude, like a red card in a spring game. Like we're playing with 10 guys now. Like, what the hell? But I can laugh about it now.
Yeah, man. So I think that's you. So would that mean that you hydrate then, if you were the one that's most likely?
Yeah, I'll take a sip to that, man.
What was the punishment for that? Yeah, got your coffee. What are
With my
you drinking there? What's your brew over there?
Yeah, I'm
Your
not much
morning.
of a coffee guy, but I love chai tea. So
Okay, nice.
yeah,
Nice.
I'll have a cup of chai tea in the morning just to kind of kick off my day.
Cool.
Next one.
Yes,
This
sir.
one, I think I can swing it, but this one is team photo. Cherish this moment. Take a group photo.
Oh, awesome. Let's do this. And I'm going to do it. So I'm going to make a quick statement as we get ready for this, is that, so to give the listeners an idea, Roshan and I talked last week. We connected for the first time. Great conversation. It was awesome primer for today's chat that you guys are all getting to enjoy. But one thing he recommended to me was do a day in the life as a soccer YouTuber traveling the world. Right now, I'm in Hoi An, Vietnam, doing this call. He's in Boston. So today I've been doing that actually. I didn't even think, I just realized as I sat down for the podcast, I was like, Roche gave me this idea and I'm doing it. So here we are. So I'm actually filming it on the GoPro, which is blurred right now, but here you guys go. Boom.
Epic.
Wave everybody. So there we go. So I'm getting my selfie video that we're going to pop in. Here's Roche for that. Now I got to do it for the podcast kind of. So yeah, here we go. Team photo.
And this one's fun, right? Because every time you play, chances are you're going to be playing with new people. So if there's a way to kind of, remember those nights, remember the crew you were with.
Yep.
That was a really fun one that I really enjoyed, just because I love like my iPhone camera roll, just a lot of moments. Just,
I mean, we're in a lot of different angles, right? And definitely speaks to the accessibility, like you mentioned. The context could be really based on the group you're with. Like if I was with my family where there's a variety of soccer knowledge, you could play with that. Or like I said, if I was going to maybe make an inside joke to my brother-in-law, I could say one thing based on a FIFA game that we played 3 years ago, right?
No, that was super fun, man. And it's a drinking game, but we call it hydration game, right? Like we don't want people to necessarily be fixated on having to drink or needing to drink alcohol. Like we say, you can play casually or like a footy hooligan. So, we really want people to take this game whatever direction they choose. And we've purposely left it very open-ended and simple for that reason. So, we want our community to kind of help drive this game in the direction that makes sense for them and for us as a community, as more people start to play it and as more people start to talk about it.
What's been one of the more, what's been one of the more surprising or really insightful pieces of feedback that you guys have gotten so far?
That's a great question. And, after this first iteration, after Kickstarter, there's a lot that I wanted to change about it in terms of tweaking it to try to make it more of a game. But, I think one thing that's super important is just having a support system around you. And I'm very fortunate to have a group of guys, they're all a part of Club 11 and Club 11, the soccer media company that I've helped out with over the last few years. They have been a driving force of wanting to keep this game simple. The best feedback I think we've gotten is just that. It's like, hey, we kind of like the game how it is. It works. People like it. There's no point in kind of changing it before people have a chance to play it and really
Mm.
give their honest feedback.
100%.
Sure, there are always improvements, but I think we've created a game that can kind of evolve with our community and evolve with time.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm very cognizant of is you're not going to satisfy everyone at once. But I think for us, it's how do we use this game to bring soccer fans together? And I think if we can show that this game creates fun conversation, it creates some lasting memories and gives you a way to associate with the game, maybe in a form that you haven't felt before. That's kind of the North Star that we're going after and kind of our ethos. So still a lot of work to be done. Definitely challenging times ahead for sure. But I think early stages of a business, especially with where we are, it's just all about trying to continue stacking the small wins. And when I think about where we were 6 months ago and where we are now, it's wow, we've actually accomplished a lot. People are finding this game, people are playing this game, and we're in a much better position now than we were 6 months ago. And we hope to be in a much better position 6 months from now than where we are today. And now it's like, hey, how do we take this to the next level?
Yeah.
So just figuring out creative ways to meet new people, have conversations, play the game. And with time, with consistency, as with all things, if you can put in the effort and be consistent, good things usually will come out of that.
100%, man. You've had the Kickstarter, which is amazing. You guys got support for that. You raised a few $1,000s for that, right? You were able to get this first version of the game out, and now people are finding it. What's like the next kind of big mountain to climb, big step that you're trying to tackle from this operational business perspective?
Yeah, great question, man. I wouldn't feel as confident about this idea today if it was 5 years ago. And the reason for that is I've had a lot of ideas over the years and things I've taken, one step, two steps, three steps. And, I would encourage people to take risks. I would encourage people to just try something because as I reflect on the last, I would say 5 years of my life, every one of those ideas just got one little step further. And with give and go, right? Maybe give and go takes off, maybe it doesn't. But to date, this is the thing that I've been able to take this far. And it's just a little bit further than that last idea I had a couple years ago. So when I think about our goals and our ambitions, we're not trying to go out and be this massive technology company, right? Raise millions of dollars and, not be profitable for, the next 5 years. I am really focused on trying to build a core, positive cash flow business that can support a small, passionate team. And for us, it's really about getting the game in the hands of more people. And, it's been a challenge, right? I think over the years, I've been able to do a lot with a little. And I think that's a good mentality to have for any entrepreneur. And so for me, I haven't had a massive source of income where I can be putting money into this. But you have to get creative with how you figure out your short-term and long-term strategy. And sure, maybe at some point the money will come. We're not actively looking to raise, millions of dollars, but even a small group of people that are willing to commit a small amount of capital to kind of get this to the next level is of interest. But beyond that, right, we're kind of focusing on three main things. For whatever money we do have or do bring in, most of that will kind of go into marketing the product. So, marketing is one thing. Distribution is another thing. Right now, we're only selling direct to consumer on our website, but I think there are opportunities to get this game on other channels, whether that's social media or Amazon or things like that. And the third thing, which I think is, something that I'm most excited about, are the strategic partnerships. What are the other soccer voices or brands or people or teams that we can partner with to create a unique card game for them? And, those are kind of the three main things: marketing, distribution, and strategic partnerships that will help get this game to the next level. And I think for us, it's just a matter of time before, we do bring together a few really impactful people that believe in this vision to kind of help us scale into these other avenues.
I really loved how you kind of framed that with the personal aspect of like, hey, it's the idea you've taken farther, and it's like it shows the life cycle and maturity of certain things. So I love how you kind of introduced. I really loved it, man. I think it's awesome. I'm already thinking about, even just the 4 questions we had, like how that would look in different groups and different people I played it with, or different people you could partner with and connect with. I think it's awesome because it comes back to that, the core of the game being the connection. It's a conversational thing. It's with your friends, but also it's a way to get to know people too, like in a non-threatening, non-pressured way of just playing a fun kind of open-ended game where it's not necessarily competitive, but you have to show your personality and some of those things. One of the ambitions and goals I have with this podcast and with the storytelling I'm doing is to connect people. So anybody listening, right? Anybody watching, be putting this on LinkedIn and sharing it around like Instagram and stuff, and tagging GIVE&GO as well in your social media. If anybody's listening, say, hey, this sounds like an awesome game and want to support Roche with this, we're going to put the contact information in the description. Your LinkedIn, your Instagram, website, all that stuff is in the description too. So check that out. We'd love to be able to support. But let's get down to the important things, man. Your all-time 5-a-side, and you have to play in the team. So it's really just 4 players that you're picking. Might allow you a bench player, right? But you've got to play somewhere in that team. Who's your all-time 5-a-side, Roche?
I've been waiting for this question, and I did think about it a little bit before, and I think most people will find this extremely biased, but this is my team. Yes. But going back to my Liverpool roots, for me, it's got to be me and Virgil, Van Dijk.
Okay. Okay, big Virg and big Roche.
Yep. He's the right footer, I'm the left footer. And then I'd have Steven Gerrard right in front of us. And then I would have, this is where I had the hardest time, but I would probably have Messi and Erling Haaland up top. So, yeah, that would be my 5-a-side team.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome, man. No, I think Stevie G is a great shout for being that, like, a 5-a-side, smaller pitch. You want somebody who can really do everything pretty well and be dangerous anywhere, and that's Stevie G. He's going to do that. And then the one where we get into our feelings here, we've talked a lot about, we've gotten to, shadowing and foreshadowing of this one, but could you complete the sentence, because football?
Because football is more than just a game. I think it's a way for us to express ourselves. It's a space for us to meet other people and learn about new cultures and travel the world as you are doing. So for me, football is more than just a game. It's really an identity, at least for me. Like, all the good things that I can think of in my life, all the opportunities, all the people that I've met, they've all been through my connection to soccer. So, I think, like we talked about earlier, less than 1% of us will go off and play professional soccer, be with other soccer fans, be willing to bring others into the mix, don't alienate people just because they don't know something about the sport. That's kind of how I've been brought up, and that's what made me love the game, were those early football memories. And, it's given me so much, and I'd like to just give back to the game in any way I can, as I think about the future.
Yeah, man. Awesome. No, well, that's what this question is for, right? Is to get a little bit, to let things breathe a little bit and get a little bit deeper into like that meaning. So, no, man, it's awesome. Really appreciate having you on, Roche. Like I said, we're going to link to your LinkedIn, the website, Instagram. If somebody is listening, they want to get in touch or interested in the game, or they want to talk about supporting you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, perfect. Honestly, LinkedIn, email, social media. I kind of manage all those.
Loved having you on, man. Love chatting. So happy you got to play the game, right?
Yes.
Like I said, I've been trolling through your socials and we talked about it, and like now we actually got to play a little bit, which is awesome. But for everybody listening, watching, appreciate you guys being along for the listen and for the journey. We had a great time, and we'll see you guys on the next episode of Because Football. Peace.